Section86.com. We're changing the world of podcasting one show at a time.
86 Productions.
Take what you wanna take. Don't leave me here. Lasting leap years ever. Your fear of the one and only love.
Hello and welcome to Off the Mark, the best podcast providing the most in-depth insight and analysis into the world of professional wrestling. On today's show, we have Aaron, Roger, and Doug to join Andrew as we discuss this month's view from the turnbuckle. So, let's talk about some releases. Aaron, who are the 4 big releases?
Big releases? I want to say there's
they're
probably
not
only one.
big. Let's just put it this way. They're not big releases. They're just releases.
Yeah, so Luke Harper, which I think is probably the biggest one. Then we had Sin Cara, and then The Ascension, which I believe is your favorite tag team of all time, Andy.
They're one of the best.
Those 4 have been released. I think the only one that's of note, like says Luke Harper, he's probably going to appear in AEW most likely. He could potentially go into New Japan. I believe that, part of the contract, they don't mind anything that's overseas, but it's anything that's local. But Luke Harper is the only one that's of any value.
I agree with Aaron. I don't know if he'll go to AEW or not. I think he needs to roll around in the independent scene. New Japan would be a good place for him to go. But it would be interesting to see what he can do on his own.
Exactly what Doug said. I think he'll end up in AEW eventually, but he should start in the independent scene, and New Japan's perfect for him.
Yeah, and it's just sad that all 3 of them, or all 4 of them got released. But Ascension is now, I can't remember what they're called, The Awakening now, and Sin Cara it's like Gold Belt is what his name means or something like that. And Luke Harper will go back to Brody Lee, of course. But yeah, it's interesting, especially what Sin Cara did, since he was on a show that he wasn't supposed to be yet before his 90-day no compete was up. So, but anyway, so Roger, who is going to be in the Hall of Fame this time?
Oh, let's see. We have the NWO, which would make sense except for the fact that your 4th member is 6. And I would really, really love to understand why 6 of all the people, like Hall, Nash, Hogan, I totally understand that. 6? Really? Like DX totally makes sense. Do you really think about 6 when you think about the NWO?
I think about Dusty Rhodes, personally.
The American Nightmare Dusty Rhodes?
I was actually thinking about Vincent.
See, I was thinking about Scott Norton.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
What about the Stuff?
Buff the Stuff.
Was he in the NWO?
Oh, yeah.
Vicious and
Scotty
Delicious?
Steiner.
You do realize there was like 100 people in the NWO. It's impossible to keep track of. Honestly, I can name like the people who weren't in the NWO, and I think it's Goldberg.
No, it maxed out at like 99. All right, let's not get too careful.
That's only because they ran out of memory card space, because back then that's how N64 cartridges were. And then, of course, Dana Brooks' favorite wrestler, Batista, is getting in again, right? Because Evolution got inducted, did they?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
No, they were talking about doing that, so then Ric Flair will be in there for the 4 Horsemen, himself, and for Evolution. That's what they want. Hopefully they don't do that.
I mean, 6 and Xbox are going to be in there for 2, so he's on the level now of Ric Flair.
Yeah, but he's not on there by himself though. 1, 2, 3 Kid maybe, but
No.
yeah.
No. He has 1, 2, 3, no chance.
Wait, are we allowed to end the show like 5 minutes in?
And that's all the time we have.
I get in for the NWO. I mean, he was part of the WWE version of the NWO.
Yeah.
As was HBK, so.
Yeah, I mean, at this point.
To NWO Red and Black.
Oh,
Yeah, where's
God.
Conan at?
So does this mean Scott Steiner's allowed to show up?
No, but his CAW isn't, though, so.
I know his video game character is banned, but I'm just wondering if he is still banned.
Yeah.
I love end of the year shows. These are great. So, Batista and NWO, I think it'll be interesting, to have the NWO up there and see what they do. Of course, all 3 of them have already been inducted individually, so this will be their all second time around. Batista, yeah, I mean, he's, I guess, worthy of a Hall of Fame induction.
I do agree that he is.
I think he could have waited 5 years. It's the same thing I had with Edge. You didn't need to do it now. Like, should be some space between his career and Hall of Fame. I mean, he was wrestling at WrestleMania last year.
Yeah, but in his case, though, he was gone for so long, and then also he said he's done, like done. And
So did The Undertaker.
Yeah.
So did Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, but I guess $2 million is you start thinking about things. They're like, well,
I think Batista would say no if the Saudi prince calls up and wants him to wrestle.
yeah, but those pay-per-views don't count. Like, they shouldn't count
Hear
our
that,
pickings.
Doug? Those pay-per-views don't count.
Yes, they do. And they're wonderful for pick'ems.
Oh yeah. So, Doug, do you know who the guys who got busted for the wellness policy? Which two wrestlers got in trouble?
It is Robert Roode who got in trouble. So Bobby Roode should be okay. But I don't remember. Is it Primo or Epico?
I'm
They're
gonna say
interchangeable, aren't they?
I'm gonna say Epico.
Let's just go both.
Does it matter?
It's all a mirror anyway. But yeah, the big name is Bobby Roode got caught with a wellness policy violation. This is his first, so he'll be out for 30 days?
Yeah, just 30 days. And with Epico Primo, their issue is that they were over in Cuba and they didn't want to fly back just to take the test. And because of that, they got a...
That was a violation?
It was a violation, so...
Cool.
So
we're not going to have you on any show. We're not having you in any writing or anything. But please come take a wellness test for us.
Yeah, but we're also going to send you money too.
What did we say about talent? What did we say about talent, WWE? You only test talent.
I wish I could send this to Carlito so he could spit in your face for not being cool.
That took me a minute. But yeah.
What else happened?
That's
Survivor Series happened.
Survivor Series did happen. The four of us were there. So Roger and Doug, how were you? Actually, Roger first. How was your seat?
Oh, our seats were fantastic. It was really, really cool to see such a mediocre card up close and personal. Yeah, I mean, truth be told, the contrast of that in NXT was so stark it was painful. And really, with the exception of the things that NXT was involved in, the men's match was actually very fun. Keith Lee broke out as a star. Adam Cole and Pete Dunne tore it up to nobody's surprise. The women's match was okay. Really, other than that, it was kind of a forgettable show. The main event was very disappointing. I was not a fan. I don't know. It was just another ho-hum, like every other main roster pay-per-view has been since the Rumble. It's been very mediocre.
Yeah, that's an understatement to say the least. But how was your chair?
Chair's fantastic. I want to hit whoever booked that show with it across the back.
Do you want to take the padding off first?
No, because I want to be able to hit them repeatedly before I dent it.
Doug, what were your thoughts on the show?
I actually liked Survivor Series. I thought it was one of the better pay-per-views of the year. I agree that the main event was a little lackluster. And I have to say, it's one of those things though. It was getting a little long, and I think the crowd was just burnt out. That men's 5-on-5 was really, really good, and it just took the wind out of everything. I thought that should have been the main event. I thought you should have ended with that. But having Shayna Baszler defeat both Becky Lynch, and Bayley by tapping out Bayley was pretty good, but it was long, and I think everybody was tired due to the fact that I thought the rest of the card was okay, if not great.
Aaron, does you hanging out on the weekends in Cicero make you a tough guy?
Hey, we all know that. I'm Cicero tough. I agree with Doug. I actually like the men's one as well. My biggest criticism, I thought, was you should have done like Raw versus SmackDown for that, or Raw versus NXT. I think that having the triple threats took away. When everything's a triple threat, it's not that important. I think that you could have done a little bit more there, in my opinion. Have Baszler versus Bayley or Baszler versus Becky, and have it be a what could happen here? And if you want to protect them, I guess you could have a run in and do something stupid like that. But Survivor Series, it actually wasn't as big of a letdown as I was expecting. I had low expectations going into it, and it met those, which is important, so it may have even slightly exceeded them. It was not as bad as I expected. Of course, NXT, which we had seen the night before, we did a podcast on it as soon as it ended. That was amazing. I mean, that was phenomenal. What's funny is that wasn't the best NXT we saw this year, but it was really good and had probably the biggest spot of the year, in my opinion. So Survivor Series was okay, but I think that's more of a, I'm glad that we went. It checked it off my bucket list, and I don't know if I need to see another one.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I wouldn't mind seeing SummerSlam and a Money in the Bank. I think those are the next two I want to see. Maybe, takeovers, yes, if they're in the area. Roger is probably going to go to the one in Portland.
Not probably.
Okay, he is definitely going, and he's going to ride the Tesla.
I will absolutely report back. I'm going to take over Portland. Take over anywhere pretty much within the region. I'm going to find a way to go because they don't disappoint. It's almost 30 and counting, and there's been one disappointing one. That's a great ratio.
Yes, same things for our series. It was there. I mean, it was a decent show, but also I wasn't expecting much. I think the funniest thing that happened was there were some guys behind Aaron and myself and our friend Travis and Dave that were talking about how because they just like the weirdest conversation you could have at a wrestling event, they had it. That's why they're Cicero tough, even though they don't live in Cicero and they're in the burbs. But TLC also happened, and Daniel Bryan returned. And I didn't recognize him at first. Aaron, what did you think about the new look for Daniel Bryan?
Partially squeezed.
Kind of looks like an American Dragon.
Yeah. I liked it. I mean, we haven't seen him like that in a very long time. And, it's a good storytelling. He obviously lost at Survivor Series and, in a tough fought match, but we all expected him to lose. And then to have him come out, shaved beard, shaved head, it was like, oh, something's happening here. Like there's something different going on. And I thought that was actually, I thought that was good storytelling. And I assume at the Royal Rumble, we'll probably have a match between him and Bray Wyatt, maybe with The Fiend. And I could see Daniel Bryan potentially winning. Potentially. Probably not, but I could see it.
Really?
I could
Over
see it.
under 20 finishers.
What?
Over under 20 finishers.
Over.
Under.
I mean, I think how many curb stomps and pedigrees did Seth end up doing in their respective matches?
But
18?
But it's not Daniel Bryan. And also, is he going to be the Fiend or is he going to be Bray Wyatt? That's the other thing. Because I think that if he comes out and he comes out as Bray Wyatt, he can do some stupid thing where he's like, well, the Fiend won the title, not Bray Wyatt. So Bray Wyatt cannot technically,
He has the title, he can lose it.
I mean, it'll depend on how. Daniel Bryan's knee is very protected. So, I think maybe Triple H kicked out of it at WrestleMania 30. I'm not 100% positive, but I don't know. I can't really think of maybe him. Oh, okay. And then I imagine probably the Fiend kicked out at some point too. So, I mean, it's fairly protected though for the most part. So, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I could see it, but we'll find out Royal Rumble.
Doug, what did you think about the new look?
I don't care. I really don't. It is what it is. It's fine. I've liked what they've been doing with Bray Wyatt, but I want it to kind of move on and go on. One of the repeat things, though, that WWE is we're not going to have rematches or other matches. We're going to get new people in to face off against champions. And what are we seeing? Oh, yeah, another repeat of what we saw, a month ago? Okay. So, and they're going to probably feud until what, WrestleMania? So we'll see him at the Rumble.
I would say Fastlane to the Chambers where that ends. Because that would be 4 pay-per-view matches at that point.
Maybe they'll go all the way to Survivor Series. Just have a year-long feud. Why not?
This is the feud that on my friend. Actually, I could see Bray Wyatt singing that. That'd actually be kind of funny.
That actually would be funny.
He busted that song out. I don't know about trademark infringement or anything, but that would be really hilarious.
Mm-hmm. And since we said it on this podcast, it's going to happen.
Speaking of Bray, did anyone see that weird Muscle Man like video that he did?
Yes.
It was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. It was like this rap video, and I don't know how to explain it for those of you who've seen it. It is just like, it's very bizarre, and it is funny. I don't disagree with like the way they're taking the character. I just wish we were getting a little bit more explanation of like what the relationship between Wyatt and the Fiend is, and like what the insidious nature is. Like he keeps saying, "Let me in." What does that mean? Because for a very long time, Bray has always had these cryptic things, and we've assumed that there was something more behind it, and nothing has ever developed. So it's like, is there a payoff to this, or is this just one of those red herrings that ultimately leads to nowhere?
I think you answered your own question.
I
But Kairi Sane got hurt in the main event, which again, I still find it weird watching women even just wrestling in the main event, it happened again. But Kairi Sane, she got messed up. Roger, what happened?
How are you
there?
saying?
Kyrie, I'll never get
Kyrie
there.
Irving.
Yes.
Yeah, so apparently she got messed up. Apparently, also Charlotte didn't recognize that she was messed up, which is surprising because Charlotte's a pretty experienced performer. I don't agree with the internet sentiment that this is completely on her because you're in the middle of a match, you're thinking about 100 things. I can understand not seeing it. The thing that bothers me is that the referee, whose job it is to make sure all of the performers are safe and are protected and are okay, what on earth were they doing? That to me is bizarre. You have one job. Make sure that everyone's safe. Make sure that everyone's okay. The moment they do a big spot, you're supposed to walk over there and make sure they're okay. And if they're not, it's your job to say, hey, let's call an audible. Becky noticed it. Asuka noticed it. Where was the referee in this one? So that to me, that's really poor officiating.
Yeah, her getting slapped while she was on the ground looked, now looking back on it, looks painful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it wasn't that. It was the table spot. It was like, you went for that. And I mean, Kyrie's essentially sandbagging her, and it's just I don't know. There's part of it where I think that Charlotte should have recognized some of it, but I agree with Roger. It really came down to the refs. The refs should have been all right, hey, something's going on here. Change it.
Yeah, it's not. Remember, what was it? Neville got hurt in the one show, and Jericho had to yell at Charles Robinson. He didn't get it, and then he was like, "What the heck's going?" And then he's like, "Oh," and then they called that audible
when
out there.
Jericho broke his ankle doing a baseball slide.
Yeah, and then Jericho pushed the referee, so he got disqualified. Yep.
And he said it that loud that everyone can hear it.
Yeah, he said he's sorry Andy hurt.
Wow.
Yes. I want to bring up one more thing with WWE. So right now they're not caring about pay-per-views. It's very obvious they're not. Roger, what are your thoughts on if you are going to WrestleMania, but you only know of 2 matches that are going to happen? Definitely going to happen. Would you be furious knowing that you spent all that money just to go to that show to only know that, hey, by the way, we have these 2 matches. That's it. We're going to figure out the rest on Saturday.
At this point, considering what WrestleMania has been for the past 4 years, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. So I would be disappointed but not surprised. I mean, WrestleMania is like a 7-hour show right now. There's going to be way too many matches. Too many of the storylines are going to be underdeveloped. And yeah, it would be great if they cared about the pay-per-views more, but also they don't matter anymore. With the network kind of being the primary method of money, the pay-per-views aren't exactly their revenue driver anymore. And I'm not really surprised. Their TV ratings are going to be way more important to them than any sort of pay-per-view. That was obvious by the fact that was Brock even at the pay-per-view or talked about recently? I think the last time he wrestled was Crown Jewel. Before that, it was SmackDown. Oh, no, I guess he was at Survivor Series as well. But, it's very obvious that what matters to them are the TV ratings to SmackDown, the TV ratings for NXT, and I guess the TV ratings for Raw, but they haven't been good in 20 years.
That is true. But yeah, so that's WWE for you. And let's talk about AEW, Doug. Let's talk about MJF versus Cody. The whole feud that they've been going on this. I think this is a big thing that AEW's been pushing recently. What are your thoughts on it?
No one's surprised that MJF turned on Cody. It was just a matter of when. I think I would have liked it if they would have dragged it out just a little bit longer and kept teasing it, and then saved it for a little bit of a bigger pay-per-view or a bigger moment. But MJF turned on Cody. He threw in the towel when he was facing off against Jericho. So now Cody cannot challenge for Jericho's title. And it's very, very interesting to see what's going on. And Cody is now offered him money and cars and everything to face him, and MJF is ducking him and trying to stay away. So how long they go with this feud, I don't know, but it'll be interesting.
I've been a huge fan of what they've been doing with this. I love that Cody had come out and said, he offered the money, he offered watches and the shoes and everything. He's like, look, you want this? I'll give this to you. Just face me. You want this? I'll give this to you. Just face me. And then the next week, MJF comes out and says, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't have anything to prove, and I got this big guy here to protect me. So, they're not even really getting physical. I mean, because it's a battle of promos. And I love what Cody has been doing. I actually really like the fact that it feels like he's unleashed. And you didn't see that in WWE. and you're seeing it right now. And I really like that. And MJF, it's not a script that he's writing. I mean, he's just saying things, right off the top of his head, and it feels more real. And so, for AEW, there's a lot of stuff going on that I really don't like, and we can probably get into that in a little bit. But this is one I think of their biggest bright spots. And if this is going to be the main event or the co-main event for the Chicago pay-per-view, I'm in. I'm all in, you might say.
Wow. I guess the only thing that's strange to me is that, isn't Cody the executive vice president of the company, if I'm correct? Or vice president of the company, or higher up, right? Like, that's not something that's been hidden. This isn't like Vince McMahon in the early 90s where he was just an announcer and you weren't aware of his title. Why does he have to ask MJF to face him?
Because like any match, you have to sign a contract.
But he works for him.
I know. Wrestling doesn't have to make sense.
No, and I get it, but we have, at this point, it's been 20 years, we have been established at the authority figure, because it's not like Austin had wanted to sign those contracts to be put in handicap matches, but Vince McMahon made him, or when Daniel Bryan was, it's like the authority figure. I guess it's always a heel authority figure, but, Teddy Long wasn't making people sign contracts when you were signed for a one-on-one match with The Undertaker. It was just the authority.
It was tag matches, playa.
Well, it was tag matches or a one-on-one match with The Undertaker. So and this is a minor complaint, obviously. I like the idea of a slow build. The one thing I think this does expose is that as good as this feud has been, why isn't there a mid-card title yet? Because right now, all they're fighting over is pride, and I know he has that ring, but, if he had his own version of the Intercontinental Championship that he was just essentially holding and ducking, and then you could have a way for Cody to actually go after him, and, he'd have to maybe relinquish the belt. Something else to add to it. I think it's a good feud. I actually think it's by far the best thing going in AEW right now. But, yeah, I just think there's a couple things that I would have liked them to have shown up, kind of tied together. Hey, you can't make me face you. If you do, it's a breach of this contract, or I'll sue you, or it's abuse of power, whatever. Just something to be like, okay, this explains why one of the VPs of the company can't just sign a match.
Interesting. Now, what title do you think they could bring? Because I have an idea, but I'm wondering what'll happen. I was thinking, didn't Dusty Rhodes bring the United States title in at one point, if I'm correct? Why can't they do United States of America? Is that who had it first? Or I think it's someone else.
The U.S. title?
Yeah.
I don't know who the original U.S. title holder was, because, it's an old title, right? It's from the NWA days.
They should bring the internet champion back.
Oh, my gosh. I always thought a television championship made a lot of sense here, because it could be defended only on television. It could be a main event for Dynamite week in and week out. That would be totally fine. Something to do while you're not chasing it. Because right now, MJF can't really chase the championship because he's a heel, and we know he's not going to fight Jericho. So it's maybe have something else for them to go after. I don't know. I think there's some ideas. I don't think it's bad by any means. This is not meant to be a harsh criticism of what they're doing. It's just they're still new, and there's some things I think they need to iron out. Mostly, their other divisions, for example.
You mean lower card, mid card, women's?
Even the main event, to be quite honest, I think Moxley's the next challenger, but I'm not sure.
No, Jericho has the lexicon of Le Champion, and Moxley was listed as somebody he's not going to wrestle.
Oh, okay. Just like how MJF is also not going to wrestle Cody.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love the lexicon, though. That was great. It really took me back to when he made the list of 1,004 holds, and armbar was every other hold, and he just kept so he kept listing all the people that are not going to wrestle for the championship, and he keeps naming Moxley about every third or fourth one.
Yeah, Jericho's segments have also been really good, and I feel like they haven't been overdoing him. He's just been on kind of one segment, and then they'll go to somebody else. Roger, I agree with what you've been saying about kind of their mid card, or even how they were introducing people. And I'm kind of curious what your guys' thoughts are. But the Butcher and the Blade, that
and
introduction,
the Bunny.
and the Bunny, and
Triple B,
they came out and they were like, "Oh, it's the Blade," and I was just like, "Who?"
Mm-hmm.
Apparently this is some new guy I've never heard of. That's fine. Okay. But he's called the Blade and then the Butcher. And I was thinking, what absolutely terrible names you gave. And then apparently Allie came out and she's now the Bunny. And they're trying to take down Cody, I guess, for some reason. I don't know.
They got paid by MJF.
And then like they beat him the first match, and then they lose the second one to him. Okay.
Yeah, there's some issues. I'd say they still need to work out. That I don't know. The Blade, like you said, that is just bad. That's like, look, I'm fine with comedy. I think the Librarian is totally a perfect jobber, right? He's not taken seriously. He's a guy who comes out and gets his butt kicked, but it's the Blade. What does that mean? Like, I don't. Yeah, why do I as a viewer care about this? And I don't think they've done a great job of explaining that. They still really, really need to fix that women's division. I know I feel like I say it every single time we podcast, but it's not very good right now. I think the tag division's actually been pretty solid. Not bad, but I wouldn't say it's spectacular, especially not compared to how I thought that after that tournament when they really did a good job of establishing both Private Party and then the Lucha Bros, which, speaking of Lucha Bros, is Rey Fenix a heel? Because he wrestled like a face when I saw him face Trent. And it seems like they're maybe moving him towards a tweener status. I mean, his moveset is very high-flying. It pops the crowd. The announcers were putting him over constantly. Like, he didn't really seem like he was being presented as a bad guy.
I think that's just one of those things that he has such great talent that everybody's going to cheer him anyway. That any of his matches or any of their matches they've been cheered for. They're not necessarily heels or faces. It's just people cheering for talent.
Well, I think that's kind of one of the issues with AEW is that, when, people want to cheer for talent, but if you have a heel, they should be a heel. And like Jericho, yeah, I mean, he's funny. And so like he's going to get some cheers, but then, he goes back to heel mode. Whereas, to Roger's point, I feel like he's doing face moves. And so he's going to face pop as opposed to a heel jeer. And I think that's one of the problems that I've seen in AEW for some of their people. Not all of them, but there's been a few.
All right, so let's move to NXT. So NXT, they've had some great run of shows recently, and the one person that we thought may show up at TakeOver finally returned on Wednesday. So Johnny Gargano comes in and attacks Finn Balor.
It was smart. It was obvious. I don't know who watched it live and saw it, but you heard the commentators repeatedly mention about how Balor made an impact by attacking Gargano when he kicked him and by putting him on the shelf for the DDT. So you kind of knew sooner or later Gargano was going to make his appearance, and that's fine. Predictable isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as it's smart and it's well done. I thought the match was really good. Balor and Cole have great chemistry. I would absolutely love to see a rematch some point in time down the line. It was the right move to have Cole go over. It was a great job by Gargano. And I really kind of liked how this wasn't babyface Mr. Wrestling. This was much closer to Johnny Badass, kind of like what we saw during his brief heel turn. He came out, he attacked Balor with a chair, he put it across his back a couple times, and then he chased him outside and hit him some more. That's fine. I like this Johnny Gargano. I like a more serious, aggressive, vicious side. I think there's going to be a great feud. I'm really excited to see these two lock up in Portland. It's going to be fun. And a really good start to NXT.
Haven't gotten to see the match yet, so I really don't have any comment at this time. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see what happened. And I do think that they are going to have a definitely good match when they do face off in the ring.
And I'm also looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great what the outcome will end up being, especially with Gargano. I mean, Gargano and Balor is something I've wanted to see for a while. I just didn't think I'd be able to see it in NXT, so I am looking forward to that. Next, we also had Rhea Ripley defeated Baszler.
Say what?
Yeah. So apparently you can't bet against her, unlike Brock. Never bet against Brock. Aaron, did you think it was time for her to finally lose the title this time?
I was actually a little surprised. The thing that surprised me in particular was that I felt, okay, when they won the War Games match and you had Ripley, kind of overcome all these obstacles, I thought, oh, they're doing that so they make her a credible threat. That way, when they go one-on-one, it'll seem like, oh, she could beat her, but Baszler will overcome all those odds. And then the fact that she won, I was like, oh, apparently they really like Ripley, or they're really trying to kind of move this storyline along, Obviously, she can go out now and say she's the first and only NXT UK Women's Champion and also the NXT Women's Champion. So she has that claim to fame now, which is that's good. They'll probably have a rematch, I imagine, in Portland, most likely. I don't know if you take the title off her, put on Baszler. I'm assuming not. I'm assuming that this is Baszler's swan song, and then we're going to see her move up to the main roster. That'd be my guess anyway. But yeah, it was a little bit of a shocker to me.
I think they've done a really good job of building up Ripley, and this doesn't come as too much of a shock, except for the fact that, like you said, you don't bet against Baszler. The fact that they did this on NXT, just normal TV, I don't know if this is we need to beat AEW kind of thing, and this is one of the things that we're going to do for Shock Moment. It is the final NXT, I think, of this year. Or at least live NXT for this year. So it's a good ending note. It was a good build-up. I would have rather seen this at a takeover, but we'll definitely be seeing probably them fight again at another takeover, and Baszler will probably move up to the main roster.
Okay. First off, NXT is the main roster. Stop saying it's the main roster. Both of you are in the wrong on this one.
Downgraded to the main roster.
Being honest, for 3 years, ask Finn Balor about that. I wouldn't say this was obvious, but I would have picked Rhea to win. I would have said she had 75% odds, just because you don't have her win at War Games in a 2-on-4 fashion to have her then lose 1-on-1. That would have been significantly illogical. And while WWE would do that, NXT typically doesn't do stupid things like that. Also, it's time. Like, Shayna has been champion for like 500 days. She has been a dominant champion since last year's Evolution. She has choked out every single person on the roster. If Rhea loses, there are no more contenders remaining. She's beaten literally everyone. So Rhea winning opens it back up for people like Bianca, for Io, for everybody else to actually come back into the title picture. So I think this was the right call. It was a good match. I'm very happy. It's a good way to close NXT because there's not a meaningful show left. The Christmas episodes are all pre-taped and it's meh. So I thought it was really good. I'm glad they're really big on Ripley. I hope Baszler is not leaving because she will not be utilized on the main roster properly. She's not Vince's type. She's not tall. She's not a blonde. She's not a model. So she will be buried like every other NXT star who doesn't fit the look. And in 6 months, we'll be talking about her as a candidate for Falling for Grace. So let's hope that they find something else to do and keep her in NXT because she's not going to succeed in the next level. Not because she doesn't have the talent, but because she will not get the backing.
Unless Vince leaves to actually do XFL stuff only. Then she might succeed. But it also depends on if it's her, his doofus son-in-law doing it. But anyway, so let's thank our sponsor, HostGator. Are you a blogger or podcaster? Are you just not happy with your web host? You need to check out HostGator.com. You're going to find web hosting made easy and affordable. HostGator offers unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click strip installs, or free stuff hands on the best control panel out there. Stop by today and try a free to download so easy as, and if you use a special coupon code, off the mark, you're going to save 25% off your web hosting packages. So what are you going to lose? Check out HostGator.com and take a bite out of your web hosting costs. Also, make sure you check out 66's Off the Mark page and click on the banner top to see big on items from wshop.com. So it's that time of year again where we give out our end of the year awards. Aaron, let's do a speed round on this. How does this work?
All right, so we're everyone's going to go back and forth, and we're going to list what our ones are. We'll announce the category, and then we'll just randomly pick somebody to do their award. So with that said, let's start with Newcomer of the Year. This year, I think that there has been an awful lot of newcomers at the very beginning of the year. I thought there's not going to be a whole lot. Then AEW came about. I think that we've seen a wealth of really great ones. We have Walter, we have MJF, Orange Cassidy, a whole myriad of other ones. And so with that said, those were 3 of my finalists, and the Newcomer of the Year that I picked was MJF.
And I will come in and say, yes, he was my Newcomer of the Year. Even though I do like Orange Cassidy, MJF is the total package.
You guys are completely missing this John Moxley guy. He came out of nowhere. But my top 3 were actually John Moxley, Orange Cassidy, and MJF. And I'm going to have to give it to MJF. I really do love Orange Cassidy, but looking forward, if you're looking forward to future star and everything like that, MJF definitely has future star written all over him.
I agree that MJF most certainly has future star. The guy oozes charisma. I just don't know that I can think about a match of his this year that I care about. Like, I feel like we've been talking about him and his promo work, but I don't think he's really done anything in the ring special. Orange Cassidy, look, I think he is my favorite new gimmick that I've seen. He cracks me up every single time, but he's definitely a comedy gimmick. I haven't really seen him wrestle much, which kind of left me with my other choice, which is Walter. He has had 2 unbelievably fantastic matches. His match with Tyler Bate is one of the matches of the year. He's not new to the wrestling scene, but he's new to WWE, and it's probably his biggest exposure so far. He's my newcomer of the year.
All right, so let's talk about video of the year. Aaron, are we allowed to use wrestling people in a video?
Well, so with this, we're actually kind of expanding on it a little bit more this year. Before this, it was, they were putting out DVDs that were very focused on things. There was like the High Flyers DVD that they had done. Of course, then you moved to Blu-ray. And there were some documentaries as well. There was the Barbed Wire City, I believe. But, for the most part, WWE's not doing that as much anymore. They'll have like the WWE, like the 365 or the 24. There's some other ones that have been done. So we are expanding and allowing people to do like pay-per-views or, other shows. However, though, I'm actually going to do a documentary series, which is one called The Dark Side of the Ring. I thought that was really well done. And they had a lot of really interesting stuff that they showcased on there. A lot of the stuff you had already seen before, but sometimes they tell it from a different perspective, and it's not all WWE-ized, meaning you're probably going to get the full story as opposed to what they want you to think.
And that as a TV series, it was on Vice. That was great. That is my number one. My second one was I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's with Morrow in it. What is it called? There?
Bipolar Rock and Roller.
Yeah, that one was really good too. So, but overall, I think yes, The Dark Side of the Ring on Vice was really good.
I went more of the show route. I didn't really. I've heard really good things about Morrow's DVD essentially, but I haven't really checked those out. And I also, to me, at this point, with the way the network is kind of changing things, they've got so much content on there that there's no way I could have reviewed all the stuff fairly. So I went best show, and I actually think it was the one that we saw recently. I think TakeOver War Games edges out TakeOver Phoenix just barely. I think that's the best show we saw all year. Out of those 4 matches, I don't think there was a bad match at all. And I think you had one of the most amazing moments of the year. You had some really good matches, a fantastic heel turn. I loved it. I think it was great.
I'm going to go with a newer show that you guys can actually see on YouTube, and I'm going to select NWA Power as my video of the year. It's actually been really enjoyable. It's a big kickback to old school wrestling. I mean, just the way everything is produced and everything like that. It really gives you that nice, like, holy crap, did I just wake up on a Saturday morning and turned on wrestling and this is what I'm seeing kind of feel. And it's a good power hour. So I enjoy it.
Aaron, who is the fallen from grace wrestler that you picked this year?
You keep coming to me, like,
know.
why don't you ask Roger first?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm getting there, but I'm asking you.
Yeah, Roger, what's yours?
So fallen from grace, I use the same criteria every year. Somebody who was really high before and someone who really seems like they are heading in the wrong direction or not being utilized. If I look at 2018, there was one name that kind of stood out, and he kind of was all over NXT. He was having really fantastic matches for the championship. One, Mr. Aleister Black. He looked like a future star in the making. I couldn't tell you what he has done since TakeOver New York and WrestleMania weekend. It seems like he just disappeared into a black hole. I know he had that good match with Buddy Murphy at TLC. He's had no feuds of note. He's had almost no opportunities to shine on the main roster. I don't even think he was at Survivor Series. I don't think we saw him at all. He seems like a complete afterthought. Very disappointing because he's really talented. He's really good, and I really hope he goes back to NXT. That he has fallen from grace heavily. Shout out to The Miz, who pretty much until recently had gone from main event superstar or undercard guy to a nobody.
Yeah, speaking of which, Andy, who is your fallen from grace?
That's a great question because I've been trying to figure out who it is. I thought about Aleister Black, but he got hurt. That was the other thing too. So that's why I really can't pick him.
You're the only person thinking about Mr. Black right now in the WWE, just so we're clear.
I know that. So if I had to pick one person, but it's because I think I picked him like the last 3 years, it's Sami Zayn. At one point, he was huge, and now what is he doing? He's just there. And realistically, you can also throw Shinsuke in that same boat too. They're just there.
Still a champion.
and they're there.
Also, Sami Zayn was never really huge in the main roster. He was huge in NXT, but pretty much the moment he got called up, he disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
That is true, but you would think that by now they would do something with him. But it's like they can't figure out what to do with him. And that just bothers the crap out of me because he's super talented, but it's like, yeah, you're not that marketable. So, yeah, just go with Shinsuke. You know, you
So
don't have to
my-
wrestle.
So I'm actually kind of going a little bit with Andy as well, with somebody that was, fairly decent in NXT and then gets called up and they, nothing. That's EC3. They were doing vignettes. They're like,
Wait, he's still on the roster?
For now. They were showcasing him like no other, and then he gets called up and he fell like I think quicker than any. Like Vince just was like, oh wait, he was in TNA. I hated TNA. Bury him down the card. And then he's just been a jobber ever since. And he had that feud with Moxley. I think it was called Ambrose at the time. And the fans knew exactly what was going on because EC3 beats Ambrose and then people booed. And then EC3 gets crapped on for that. So EC3 is my fallen from grace.
I've decided to go with a guy that wasn't necessarily over in the WWE eyes, but with the WWE universe, and is now been limited into what I don't care if anybody else likes this promo or not, but I'm going with Rusev. Rusev Day was one of the biggest things in the WWE. You don't give him a title or anything like that, but biggest thing, definitely over. And now he's been gone for a while. He comes back, and what do we do with him? Oh, yeah, let's have his wife make out with Bobby Lashley. And this is a thing. And let's have a divorce and all this other stuff. Let's even promote that he's going to fight Bobby Lashley at Starrcade and then never show that match. This is absolutely horrible. If this is what you have to do, if you have to pimp out your wife to get over, you've fallen a long way.
I didn't realize we were talking about worst feud of the year yet, but yes. So, Doug, who is your underrated wrestler of the year?
Oh, this is the one that I had a little bit of a hard time with. Go ahead and pick somebody else right now because I don't have anything.
Aaron?
So I narrowed it down to two people, which was Drew McIntyre and Shorty G. And as far
Say
as
his name. Say his real name.
Chad Gable. Chad Gable. I'm going to go with Drew McIntyre only because even though he had a high-profile match at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns, he was put as Shane McMahon's lackey, and then he was losing matches left and right. There was no feuds going on. And he's somebody who, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, he's probably going to be the champion by the end of the year. And he's the farthest from it. Like, there's nothing else going on with him. So I would say probably Drew McIntyre is my underrated.
I'm going to just say it since it hasn't been said yet. The Miz. Always my underrated wrestler of the year because he's just underrated.
He cannot be underrated, Andy. If you pick him 4 years in a row, he cannot be underrated.
He's underrated.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Who's your second?
The Miz.
He's that underrated that he is both my number one and number two.
He's 1 to 7 right now.
So I will say, in Andy's defense, I have The Miz as my second most underrated as well. Because for once, Miz has actually been underutilized. Like, since his feud with Shane McMahon, that he never won a match in, like, let's point that out. He literally didn't beat Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon loses to everyone except Miz. After Miz beat the crap out of his dad. Like, that's like the cardinal sin of wrestling, right? You beat somebody's family up, you beat them in the match. Nope, not Shane O'Mac. He's the best in the world. But if we're talking about underrated and underutilized, I agree with Aaron. Drew McIntyre, and we talked about this when we went to Everett, that guy looks like a star. If I didn't know anything about wrestling and that guy came out, I would say that is one of the top guys in your company. He oozes charisma. He looks like a monster. He's intimidating. He can wrestle. He is big. I don't get it. I just don't understand it at all. He seems like a guy that Vince would have wet dreams over. And yet he is constantly a lackey. And for some reason, Baron Corbin seems to keep getting the spot that he gets. I have no idea why, because McIntyre as king would be way more entertaining. Like, I'm perplexed at how little they want to use McIntyre, considering a guy who has size and look and everything. That I would assume that you want his long black hair. Like, he seems to fit exactly what Vince wants. and they just refuse to. I don't even think he's won a title outside of NXT since his days as the Chosen One. Oh, maybe he won a tag title, but no.
He
one
won
cares.
a tag title, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Doug.
Just so you know what, you guys are right with Drew McIntyre as the underrated wrestler of the year. There's somebody that came up with such huge promise and has done absolutely nothing. He for everything that you guys said, he has size. He does have a charisma about him of just being that guy that's going to go out there and brutalize you, and we don't want to do anything with him.
Now, Doug, is your number 2 The Miz?
Yes, my number 2 is actually he's like more of a 1.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
This is so awesome. He's second to no one.
so that's the underrated wrestler of the year. Oh my god, moment of the year! I'm gonna flat out say it. NXT Takeover War Games. Kevin Owens shows up. That's my oh my god moment of the year. Come on,
Just showing up.
him showing up and giving his thanks for the memories, guys.
Andy, that wasn't even the oh my god moment of the night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't even
Well,
that
the
of the
bump
match.
was, but like, see,
Yeah.
The one where someone nearly died.
Yeah. I think the other 3 people that are way smarter are going to say it was the air raid off the top of the cage.
Like, don't get me wrong, Kevin Owens showing up was really cool, but we see surprise returns all the time. When is the last time you've seen someone take an air raid crash off the top of a cage through tables?
Hey, Bulls.
Tables.
okay, fair point.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I'm going to say this. It's Ciampa. I don't even understand the discussion if someone wants to say something else, but I'm going to say this. If we take those away, let's say War Games didn't happen, I actually think the oh my god moment of the year was Ambrose leaving on a surprisingly high note. He was advertised that he was leaving. He was allowed to wrestle matches on TV. Yeah, he put guys over, but I've never seen a scenario in which they were so open about a big name leaving the company and didn't just absolutely bury him by making him disappear off television. He was wrestling the night, or like the week before WrestleMania, and he was on AEW, or he was, it was, I don't know. I was surprised by that. They treated him much better than I anticipated.
So, Andy, are you sticking with KO?
It is
Do it.
decided.
Wow. All right. So,
even
the
though I will say, because
the
I
other 3
already
pick
made that.
real OMG moments of the year.
Well, okay, but
Hold on.
him showing up still was
what
like,
is
oh
our
my
definition of OMG moment of the year? Does it have to be a match? Does it have to be a moment? So
It's whatever,
Something that makes
anything that
you
happens.
scream out, oh my God, this caught me off guard.
right,
Shane
So-
jumping from the Hell in a Cell. That was
right.
Whoa.
CM Punk walking out after the Rumble. That was a pretty big moment.
CM Punk showing up on WWE backstage.
That,
So-
yeah, that could be.
That's
yeah.
my OMG moment of the year.
Oh, okay.
That's a good one.
All
All right.
So let me ask you, Doug, were you that surprised that he showed up on a Fox show?
Due to the fact that it is still WWE, yes, I know that he says that his paycheck is from Fox, and I'm sure it is. The fact that he's back, and whenever I've seen him at C2E2, because he shows up almost every year now, anytime somebody asks him about wrestling and coming back to wrestling, he just belittles them. I'm not coming back to wrestling. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm never going to work with WWE again. And then all of a sudden, now you are on a show constantly talking about WWE.
Not talking positively, just to be
Right, which is also surprising too in itself, or in that aspect. But maybe that was the point that they got him to come back. Hey, you're going to be paid by Fox, but you can come out and you can make fun of the booking. You can make fun of the wrestlers. You can point out their flaws. That is it's still there. But the fact that he is on a show called WWE Backstage. If it was called Talking Wrestling, then I wouldn't have been so surprised. It's WWE Backstage.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to say my close second was Moxley to AEW.
all right. So, Doug, what was your biggest disappointment of the year?
The Hell in a Cell main event. The
Okay.
Fiend versus Rollins. In a Hell in a Cell match. A match to end all matches. No disqualification. Anything goes. And we ended the match with a ref stoppage.
All right, Roger, you can. What's yours? But you can't use Crown Jewel.
So here's the thing. For me to be disappointed by Hell in a Cell, I would have to not anticipate them stopping the match. And I'm pretty sure they did the previous year with the whole Braun Strowman and Roman thing getting interrupted by Brock. So I'm not exactly surprised that they did that. But actually, the biggest disappointment to me is the wild card rule. And the reason it's the biggest disappointment is that it made no sense. They implemented this rule before the shows actually went to different brands. It was absolutely atrocious and ruined the product more so than it was already bad. And the moment they actually split the shows between Fox and USA, the wild card rule disappeared. I'm both confused. I don't understand it. It made no sense. After that, yes, the Saudi show was my second. And let's please not do this without mentioning the atrocity that was Undertaker versus Goldberg, because that was a piece of garbage. Like, that was a match that we all dreamed of seeing as kids. Not now. That match was horrible. Horrible.
I agree. So, Doug, biggest disappointment.
Yeah, I already went over mine.
Aaron.
Do you really want me to go over it again?
No.
Because I will.
Aaron?
I hate that match so much.
So mine is actually very similar to Doug's. It's not the Hell in a Cell main event, but it's actually the Fiend's booking in matches. I like the vignettes that they've done. I like what they've been doing with that character, but I hate the fact that in matches he's completely unstoppable, and it takes 40 finishers to even put him down, and it just makes him look too superhuman, to the point that Hulk Hogan's like, "Hey brother, back off a little bit." So it's Fiend's match booking is my biggest disappointment.
You wouldn't be saying, "Hey brother, Ray," if the Fiend weren't, white.
All right, so wrestling industry news. I'm going to start this
What's
one.
yours, Andy?
Oh, easy. Wednesday Night Wars.
That's your disappointment.
That's your disappointment?
Wow.
We're going to
crap.
wait explanation on that.
Please do.
Of
And
all the things,
I don't understand.
disappointment?
Yeah.
Wait, did you confuse this with the "oh my god" moment of the year?
No, I think he confused it with the worst feud.
I think he did it with wrestling industry, dude.
Okay,
Whoa,
I thought I named my biggest.
in NXT and AEW?
No,
Yeah.
that's the highlight.
It should have been bigger. There should be more ratings.
Andy, what's your biggest disappointment of the year?
Lana.
Is it that AJ Lee didn't come back and win the Rumble?
No, yes, definitely that. I think it's actually the biggest disappointment to me is, I mean, I'm gonna have to go with Doug. I think Hell in a Cell was horrible. We'll just say that it was bad, not just bad, but really bad. But anyways, so I was actually I thought I already went over that, but wrestling industry news. For me, it was the Wednesday Night Wars. Basically, you have NXT goes live on Wednesdays and AEW goes live on Wednesdays, and you have one on TNT and one on USA. So to me, that is the biggest wrestling industry news. Roger, what did you have?
So I had it just as AEW getting a TV deal, because for the first time since the WCW went down, you had real competition, and it was back on TNT, and it felt like a bit of a blast from the 90s. That, to me, that changed the game. For the first time, there's a legitimate alternative. And not to say that AEW is on the same level as WWE, but it's another option for wrestlers to go. When we talked about guys who get released, it's no longer just go to the indies. Now you can go not just to New Japan, but you can go to AEW. It makes AEW much more legit. Over time, they could eventually become a true threat to WWE. I think that's the biggest news you're going to have. Behind that, oddly enough, was Ambrose going and leaving AEW, because you don't really see a lot of their top guys leaving in the middle of their career. And this is kind of the beginning of what we saw in the 90s, where guys are like, you know what? I'm sick of this creative. I'm out of here.
I agree with Roger. I have the same thing, NXT versus AEW, with my second being Moxley to AEW. This has been exciting. I love Wednesdays. Not only is it my Friday, but to come home and try to catch the highlights of both NXT and AEW, nothing better.
Yeah, and I echo that. I think we're all similar things. Mine was just AEW launching and, obviously getting a TV deal, and then, of course, going head-to-head with NXT. So for me, similar.
Worst feud. I think I said it already.
Did you?
Rusev and Lana, and Lashley's there. Doug?
Rollins versus The Fiend. Worst feud.
Yeah, you took Seth Rollins from being over and you Roman Reigns him. It's Seth versus Brett. And honestly, the only one to me that was anything close was that god-awful McMahon versus Becky Lynch storyline.
So I think that we might be missing one here, and I'm going to throw it out. This was my worst feud, and it was Shane McMahon versus Roman Reigns. And the reason I thought that was terrible is because normally in a feud, somebody gets over, right? That's the whole point. And Shane McMahon essentially was the one that got over. And who did it help out? Like Shane McMahon defeated Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia. Like, what was the point in that? And then Drew McIntyre lost to him. You would think, oh, this is where you have Drew win. He's the one that gets the win. Shane gets the loss. No. So, like, to me, it was that one.
But Shane McMahon's the best wrestler in the world. How can you have the best wrestler in the world being the worst feud?
I mean, it happens at times.
And Roger?
I actually had Shane versus wrestlers as my third worst feud of the year. Just because, even starting with the whole Miz thing, that Shane does not need to be winning feuds. He's supposed to be there to create big spots and put over talent. But I don't think it was as bad as Seth versus Bray. No one was hurt by that. Even though no one got over by it, no one was hurt by it. Seth had to turn heel because that feud was so bad. And this is a guy who, 2 years ago had put on that great gauntlet match where he was maybe the most over guy in the company. That's a bad feud. That's Alexa Bliss Bayley bad. And that's like the low point of feuds in maybe the last decade.
So what would you say is your best feud, Roger?
So this one was actually a little bit tough because I don't think there were a lot of great legendary feuds. I mean, now admittedly, we're comparing it to, let's say, Ciampa versus Gargano, which had been built up for a year. I don't think there were that many great ones. And when I did the midway point, I actually had the Undisputed Civil War as potentially the feud of the year. Obviously, that never came to pass. There was one really good feud that I thought was done pretty well, and it was towards the earlier part of the year. Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan, kind of a rehashing of the Authority storyline. I think at one point, Bryan even called him a B-plus player. I thought that was really good, kind of moving Bryan into that Authority-like role, quote-unquote. Kofi winning at WrestleMania was a really good feel-good moment. Nothing came of it after the fact, but really fun feud, kind of from build-up from Chamber to WrestleMania. I think that's probably the best WWE feud that I can think of.
And Doug?
I'm going to go out of the WWE for this one. I'm going to go Lucha Bros versus the Young Bucks. And their pay-per-views leading up to their launch, those tag team matches have been absolutely outstanding, and each one growing to a better and better match, which resulted in the end match being that ladder match, which was just absolutely probably one of the best matches of the year.
Aaron, you want to go or do you want me to go?
No, I want to hear yours.
Mine is NXT.
Just NXT?
Just NXT. There is not a single...
Which one? Which one?
I mean, well,
you have to pick one.
If I had to pick
NXT
one
versus
feud,
AEW. That's his feud of the year.
If I had to pick one feud that's in it, NXT, is that what you want me to do?
Yeah.
I just want to say everything that happened in NXT. That was
but
those
one?
feuds were all the best of the year.
There's one that's better than the rest. Which one is it, Andy?
It's Adam Cole versus NXT roster.
So Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano?
Oh yeah, and Ciampa.
Okay, so Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano. I have you down for that, Andy. Let me know if it's anything different. So I think the best feud of the year, the one that I decided to go with, was very similar to Roger. I went towards the beginning of the year. This one actually went on a little bit longer. I felt there was a little bit more personalness to it, and it was Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch. And the reason I like that one, Charlotte obviously was in there, but it was really those two. Those were the two that were feuding. And, that one is the one that I thought had a little bit of like teeth to it. And so, that's my feud of the year.
Did they really feud?
Oh yeah, they were calling each other out. They were spitting fire, and like the things that Becky was saying, it was just like,
she brought up her husband and stuff, and there at one point.
Was this on Twitter?
Yeah,
it was on Twitter.
No, they were doing
Instagram,
it on,
and also on TV.
They were doing it on TV, and they were going at it.
I somehow missed that entire thing.
That was pretty intense. I thought that it was half and half. I don't think that they planned it, but then I think Becky Lynch, because she's the man, just took it to the next level. Oh, and speaking of my best woman wrestler of the year, I'm going to go with the man, Becky Lynch. Aaron?
Oh yeah, I'm doing the same. I think I could see Roger picking somebody else, but I think we're probably most of us going Becky.
I'm going Shayna Baszler. I think she had such a dominant year, and that she's improved so much. To be that dominant all year round, plus then she's had probably the best year for any woman wrestler. Sad to know about picking her on the day she loses her title. But what a run.
I mean, there's only two realistic choices, in my opinion, and it's the two people who've already been mentioned. Becky has had a phenomenal title reign from WrestleMania to now. Here's the one thing I would ask the two of you that pick Becky. Name a good match. I can think of one.
Go on.
It's Becky versus Sasha at Hell in a Cell. Other than that, her matches, no, that's not her fault. She's been paired up with people like Lacey Evans and Natalia and, very mediocre dance partners. Obviously, the match at Survivor Series disappointed. The match at WrestleMania, in my opinion, was a disappointment. Her series with Charlotte has not been all that fun. Meanwhile, Shayna's had some really, really good matches. The match with Bianca was really good. The Fatal 4-Way was really good. The matches with Io were really good, especially that cage match. The match with Mia Yim was solid. The match with Candice LeRae was solid. War Games was really good. Tonight's match was really good. It's Shayna Baszler. Like she's just had a better year. She's been a more dominant champion. I think she's had better matches. I think her character has been built up better. I like Becky. I think she's done a fantastic job of what she's working with. But while she was stuck doing dumb tag matches with Seth, Lacey Evans, and Baron Corbin, Shayna Baszler was tearing it up with Io Shirai. If you give one person good ingredients and you give the other one garbage, one person's going to cook a better meal. It just is what it is. And Shayna Baszler has been better.
I got
how many WrestleMania main events does Shayna Baszler have?
How many opportunities has she had to main event?
How many times is she going to main event a WrestleMania lifetime?
Let's look at the record against each other. Shayna Baszler beat Becky Lynch.
There we go. Beat her in the main event in the middle of the ring. Say what you want. Becky has never beaten Shayna.
Top 4 pay-per-view.
Yes. She would not have been in the main event had it not been for Becky Lynch. If it was Bayley versus Shayna, that's not a main event of a pay-per-view. But because Becky was there, that made a main event.
I mean, by that logic, Becky wouldn't have been in the main event if it wasn't for Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, true. Potentially.
No, not potentially. Becky versus Charlotte is not the main event of WrestleMania. That ain't happening.
How many times did Shayna actually take someone who stinks, Lacey Evans, and make her look halfway decent?
She didn't, though.
Well,
Lacey Evans still stinks.
I mean, that's not a thing. They don't suck in NXT. They have good wrestlers.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Becky worked with what she had. Shayna had way better dance partners.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But again, you don't get extra credit for giving me a bad meal because your ingredients sucked. If one of you cooks a 5-star classic and the other one cooks a 2-star, you don't go back and go, oh, I want the 2-star because they did more work. You want the better one. Yeah. And like we've said with, like AJ and Brian, Shayna's matches have been better consistently. And I love Becky, but she's not been given completely trash dance partners. Some of her dance partners were competent. They just at the triple threat was just not very good.
Yeah, and absolutely. And she was put in very bad storylines. Hey, by the way, this is Seth Rollins' girlfriend. Now it says, fiance. And they went with that for like 3 months. That's not her fault.
Right? The feud against the McMahons.
Well, she said yes.
Well, what's she going to say, right? Like,
No. But she didn't have to be the fiance.
She was well, yeah, I guess that's true. She won the Royal Rumble. She main evented WrestleMania. She had 2 titles for, a little while. She still holds the Raw Women's title. She's probably going to hold it till WrestleMania.
Yep.
So,
name a good match besides Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, but the thing is, it doesn't just have to be a match. It's like, with MJF, right? Like, MJF is an amazing promo. His in-ring work, whatever. It's okay, and he'll probably get better. Walter is way better in the ring, but Mike, it's okay.
Name a great moment that Becky produced this year.
Winning WrestleMania.
But that match wasn't. There was no good. But see, that's the thing. Those are booked things. Name a moment that she provided. Ciampa and Cole provided a great moment. Shayna
moments that she provided. I would say that her mic work that she had with Ronda Rousey, that was like, it was actually tense, which is what you want. That's what you want in a feud. So for her to get into Ronda Rousey's face and say the things that she would say on the mic to her, it's like, wow, like this is getting like a little uncomfortable. What's going to happen here? And
I think I'm going to change my best feud this year to Aaron versus Roger on Women of the Year.
I mean, to be fair, this has already been better booked than most of Becky's storylines, if we're being honest here. Yeah, I mean, that's the truth. Like, truthfully, Becky is talented. Like, I'm not doing this to dog on her, but her character has been stale. Like, it's just been boring. Like, her title reign has been uninspiring. It has not been interesting. The matches have not been fantastic. The dance partners have not been good. She hasn't really had a good feud. Like, if your best feud was her and Rousey, that was March. 9 months later. She hasn't done any. What good feud has she had since then?
Yeah, but it's for the year. It's for the calendar year, right? So like we have all of 2019, and
so she was good
months.
For March.
Yeah, for 3 months.
She was good for 3 months.
3 months.
3 months.
Where Shayna Baszler was good for 12.
There we go.
And then there was like a good 4 months where it was like crap because of what they had booked for her. When Yeah. Oh yeah. When they were focused on the marriage of with her and Rollins.
I think pretty much post Mania to now has been crap.
Well, until Sasha came back, that's when it actually got like interesting because Sasha was a legit. She could actually take the title from her. Like I could see this happening.
But then they dropped that feud weirdly enough, and they went to who again? Who did she feud after Sasha with?
Essentially Charlotte in a way. I mean, like they did a lot of really weird stuff with her.
And that's my point. I can tell you exactly who Shayna Baszler feuded with from point A to point B, from January to December. Main event champion of Raw, and we have no idea who she feuded with between Sasha Banks and now. Wasn't there like 2 weeks that she wasn't even on the show?
Well, yeah, but I mean,
okay. I think the defense rests our case here. Listen, you've done a good job of putting your girl over. It's fine.
Well, I mean, she main evented WrestleMania. I mean, other than that, it's like, boom, mic drop. She main evented WrestleMania. She's held the title for, 9 months now. She didn't lose her title tonight, by the way, just to, throw that out there.
That's because she didn't wrestle tonight or last week or the week before.
Oh, no, she did.
Hogan hasn't lost his title either.
Yeah. I mean, she's doing very well. She is doing fine. She's going to hold the title until WrestleMania. She'll have a very prominent spot there. Who knows? Maybe she'll main event WrestleMania. Maybe if she's nice, she'll allow like Shayna Baszler to, come.
Oh, she won't because she already lost when she fought Shayna. We know that.
Yeah. She wasn't part of the decision, so there's that too. Anyway, moving along to tag team of the year. Doug, I'm assuming probably who was part of your feud of the year might be in your tag team of the year. Is that safe to say?
That is safe to say. Now, which one?
I'm going to go Lucha Bros if I had to guess.
I guess say Lucha as well.
Lucha Bros are my tag team of the year. That was just with them winning that feud. They've been outstanding, and I've watched some of the stuff that they even did with the Young Bucks in AAA and their matches there, and have been following them a whole lot since AEW. They put on some of the most insane matches and do some of the most insane things, and just been such an entertaining tag team. Fresh and new and still up and coming stars, and to know that they're also doing stuff as singles, it's just amazing. I love them. I absolutely love them. I don't think there's a better tag team going right now.
Yeah, I would actually. I had it between Lucha Brothers and Young Bucks, but realistically, Young Bucks. I mean, they've had some great matches, but I think Lucha Brothers are way better. So. Lucha Bros, I got to hand it to them.
I really like the Lucha Bros. I would say they're my runner-up. They were fantastic in everything I've seen. I think the one thing I like about them, and this is maybe one of my criticisms of AEW, is that their moveset doesn't look as fake as some of the other teams. Like, I like Private Party, but some of their moves look fake. And even the Young Bucks suffer from this, where it looks a bit contrived, like to the point where it's like, I remember my wife walked in, she was like, that doesn't even look close enough for me to suspend disbelief. I don't have that problem with the Lucha Bros. It looks devastating. I think their matches are really good. I think they're phenomenal. I hope they're one of the future of the division. I'm going to go with Undisputed Era because they've kind of been the linchpin for that tag division the entire year, whether it was the War Raiders to the Street Profits. I mean, they have just been there. They've been great. They've been putting on fantastic matches. Their match with the Revival was one of the best matches of the year, hands down. And it was on basically just a NXT before Survivor Series, and it was outstanding. Maybe the best tag match I saw all year, taking away the ladder match. Undisputed Era wins for me.
Well, Roger and I are going to agree on something right now because same thing.
Good job. Exact
same thing. And for everything.
Biggest disappointment of the year is now Aaron agreeing with Roger.
So happy.
All right, so Wrestler of the Year. I'm going to start this off because I believe.
No. Match of the year first.
You have tag team, but then it goes wrestler.
No, it goes match. We always close in wrestler.
Yep.
All right. My bad.
I'm going to say this right now before we start back in. If you guys, I want to go last because I really am curious to see who you guys pick for Wrestler of the Year because I only actually think there's one choice. So I'm curious to see if you guys have a different choice.
All right.
I will agree that I think there should be only one choice.
There is one choice. R.I.P. Randy.
All right, Andy, match of the year.
Match of the year, War Games, men's. That's it. I don't have to elaborate on
Men's
that.
War Games?
Yeah.
I mean, there were two. You got to clarify.
Yeah. Men's. Doug?
Okay. I am also going to take one for an event we went to, but it was at the beginning of the year, and I'm going to pick Gargano versus Ricochet. That match, I think it probably got like a 3.5 or 4 star for Meltzer's scale, but that was a match that while watching it, I was on the edge of my seat. it could have gone either way, and Ricochet ended up winning that match. But it was just so. There was something about seeing that match live. It reminded me a lot of seeing like Sami and Nakamura, which was, all our matches of the year. Thought that was just absolutely fantastic. And even though like Meltzer probably gave it like a 3 3/4 star, like to me it was like a 5, and that was my favorite match of the year.
It was definitely the best match of the year, and the fact that we had to start off that the year with that, the rest of the year has been downhill.
Roger.
I think it actually got 4 4.25 star from Meltzer, but I actually agree with you. It when I saw it live, I think I looked over at Doug and I said, "That's the best match of the year. I don't care if it's in January. You're not topping that." And there were some matches, and there's definitely some ones that definitely deserve some respect. Kofi Bryan, Rollins and Styles at Money in the Bank tore it up. Matt Riddle versus Roderick Strong was really good from TakeOver 25. Revival versus Undisputed Era, I mentioned that. That was probably one of the 2 to 3 best tag matches of the year. Gargano versus Cole was really, really good. Me and Aaron agree that I think the first one was the best of the 3 and that the kick out of the last shot was unnecessary. Walter versus Tyler Bate at Cardiff, really, really good match. Anyone who hasn't seen that should go see that. But Gargano Ricochet was perfect. Like, there was nothing about that match that I would change. That set the standard for the year, and nothing touched it. Only other match I would say that maybe also was close was Daniel Bryan versus Adam Cole on SmackDown. It was random, it was thrown together, and it was really, really good. Clean finish, clean match. Like, this was a good year for wrestling, but Gargano Ricochet to me was the best.
All right. So, wrestler of the year, Brock Lesnar. Just kidding. Adam Cole. There is not a single. I would love to hear someone say someone else besides Adam Cole.
Doug?
Adam Cole. I can't disagree with it. It's if you want to look about a year and you want to talk about a full year of matches, great promos, great everything, Adam Cole has had it. And it doesn't matter who you throw with him. Those instantly become almost match of the years or even feuds of the years and everything like that. I had a close Y2J as a second, but Adam Cole for a whole year consistently carried NXT, which I will say has been the superior brand for the whole year.
Aaron?
I want to pick Becky Lynch just to piss Roger off.
I honestly expect you to at this point. Like, I'm really waiting for you to justify that her matches have been better than Adam Cole.
You know what's funny though? When I did, at a few months into the year, I write this down and I go, oh, here's what I'm kind of thinking. I actually picked her back in April. It was right after WrestleMania. I put her down, but I agree. I mean, like, there's been a lot of crap that's happened. Part of that, I do agree with you on. But with what Andy and Doug said, I mean, that was what I had picked as well. Like Adam Cole. You look at the year as a whole, you look at what he did in January, look what he's done in December and everything in between, and it's been fantastic. And unfortunately, Seth Rollins, who has just like had a roller coaster of a year, Jericho, I think, is actually a very close second. I had considered him, considering what he's been able to do thus far, I mean, with AEW and just, he had mentioned how, his promos that he's been doing. He's like, yeah, I went out like without having a script for the first time in, 10 years, 15 years. But
he had a little bit of the bubbly.
Yeah. Like, but Adam Cole just, you look at it from a whole package. It's the wrestling, it's the promos, it's everything that he does in between. And I think Adam Cole is easily the wrestler of the year.
I think this is much more of a discussion if we did the awards in October, because at that point I think it was a closer debate. I think Cole was probably still out front, but I think there were more people who you could say, Kofi at one point was up there and then he tapered off. Johnny Gargano was up there and then he disappeared. I actually thought Matt Riddle was a dark horse for there because he was putting on some really good matches. Even at the takeover that we saw, his match with Hero was good, and it was the worst of his 3 takeover matches, or 4, I guess now. Chris Jericho, obviously, for what he did in AEW and kind of carrying the company, he's really the only massive name, I would say, in that company right now. But then November happened, and Adam Cole just absolutely dusted everybody. I mean, his November has been probably the greatest month that I've seen when you just talk about runs this side of maybe like Okada, Omega, when they were going to that ridiculous series of just putting on 5-star classes with anybody under the sun. I know Meltzer talks about Ric Flair back in like the mid 80s where he would just, go on these ridiculous runs. Cole's been fantastic. I mean, if you want to actually see how a good champion is booked, so kind of not how Raw does it with their women's champion, but like a really good, well booked, feud to feud to feud, Adam Cole has been fantastic. The only complaint we've had this year was too much of him and Gargano. And even those matches are better than anything we got on the main roster. And yet, War Games was fantastic. When they invaded SmackDown, it was fantastic. Yeah, they invaded Raw, it was okay, but that was only because they weren't allowed to finish the match. His match with Finn Balor tonight was fantastic. He's been one of the best wrestlers we've had in quite some time. And that's including that great run Okada had, that great run Omega had. His November is a November to remember.
And also, one thing that we should point out with what Cole has done is that he's put out those great matches on free TV. He did it at TakeOver, and then he did it at Survivor Series. So his
Pete Dunne match was also
correct.
Yeah.
So that, to me, that just says something. Like, when they signed him, I was like, okay, that's great that they signed him. I didn't think it was going to be this good. So kudos to Trips getting him to come over. So one of the best signings he's had. One of them. So predictions.
I guess let's real quick. Doug, who's winning the Royal Rumble this year?
Shayna Baszler.
Yes!
The men's.
Yes!
Who's winning the men's?
Who's winning the men's?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Thank you, Doug. That's my moment of the year for 2020.
Who's winning the men's? I'm going to go with Roman Reigns. Because I need to be disappointed at WrestleMania again.
And here's my weird one. It wouldn't surprise me if they decide to finally let Aleister Black do it, but they won't. So the 2020 men's Royal Rumble winner will be Adam Cole, baby.
Aaron, say it. I want you to say it. I want you right now to tell me who you think is winning the Rumble.
Oh, it's easy. It's going to be CM Punk. I mean, we know that. And then for the women's, we know it's obviously not going to be AJ Lee. That'd be silly. She's not going to come back. But the women's, it's going to be Ronda Rousey.
Interesting.
Ronda v. Becky, too.
So I'm going to say that Shayna Baszler, mostly because of this conversation, I'm absolutely going Shayna Baszler for the women's. And there's actually a storyline. She's already beaten Becky in a match. They can go in the main event so that Shayna can show her how to do a proper WrestleMania main event. They can go Shayna versus Becky in the main event of 36, I think we're at now, in Tampa. Men's, guys, this is the easiest choice on the planet. You have an unstoppable monster in The Fiend who requires a ton of finishers to beat, and that we need a hero, somebody who maybe has come back from cancer. Come on, guys. It's in Florida, for God's sakes. It's Roman Reigns. This is the easiest pick in the book. He's going to win the Rumble. He's going to go on to be the first guy to beat The Fiend, and he's going to walk out of WrestleMania yet again with the championship. I think he just won the Survivor Series match. We all know it's Roman. We all know who's going to be the first person to beat Bray. It's going to be Roman. Because why? It's always Roman Reigns. When they build up a big monster, it's to feed him to their top face. And who do they consider their top face now with Seth having turned? Roman Reigns. Take it to the bank.
All I'm thinking about right now is the cat meme where the two ladies are fighting, like one's holding the other one back. That's what I'm picturing right now. And Roger's the cat.
I'm picturing the one, the guy with his girlfriend where you see, so it's like Vince McMahon, and then he's got like Bray Wyatt, and then he looks back and he sees Roman Reigns, and he's like, ooh, yeah. That's what I'm thinking. That's the meme I have in my head right now. He just sees Roman and just can't help himself. Or the Andy Roman Reigns meme. You know which one I'm talking about.
That one doesn't get old. Never does. All right, one more. Doug, XFL, failure or success?
Can
you define success?
Yeah,
I was going to
having a second season.
Then I'll say success.
Roger?
Yeah, second season.
Yeah, second season is going to happen.
Yep.
All right.
Especially with the, what was it, the AFL? What was the one that came up and flopped already?
Was it USFL?
No, not that one.
AFL. It had a lot of letters in it.
Yeah,
it
was the one.
Football League.
I thought it was the AFL for some reason.
Is it Alliance?
I thought it started with an A, but then I thought the American Alliance National
AFL.
That sounds about right. But yeah, with that one having been gone, I mean, it has to be, right? Like, there has to be a second season, or this is just never going to work.
There really won't be anything other than the NFL.
Yeah. I'm
interested. I think it'll succeed for one reason, and that's my announcer of the year, Pat McAfee.
Oh my God, I'm so happy.
I have yet to wash my hands since he slapped it. All right, so that's the time we have for this month's show, and it's our end of the year show. If you're on the Twitter, you can follow the show at AuthMark86. I want to thank 86 Productions for hosting and editing the podcast, and I want to thank all of our listeners for taking the time to download and listen to the show. And for Roger Cave, Doug Condon, and Aaron Hughes, I am Andrew Hughes, and until next time, see you in the ring.